What up guys, your boy Kothis, and we're back with yet another one. Now today we are playing with the Summoner and the Engineer, and I have dubbed it the SummoNeer just out of lack of creativity. You could call this whatever you want to call this. Now these two archetypes synergize very well with each other, and at first I didn't really enjoy the way that they play because it's more of a setback style of play, but once I adjusted to how it plays, I started to thoroughly enjoy this build. Now this build has a lot of high crowd control as well as lifesteal and some really good resistances. And on top of that, these summons usually draw aggro more often than not, and it allows you as the player to kind of do whatever you want, whether that be put out more big damage or run away and heal yourself, which I thought was really cool. I really enjoy how this actually started to come together because I mixed a lot of things in and out, testing rings and stuff to see what I could do to get some good damage while trying to survive. And I feel like I have a good idea on it, but once again, I haven't played the Summoner class as much as some other players. I was kind of asked to put this together by a friend, so I'm just giving you my take on it. I am no master summoner, but I am an engineer guy, so I really enjoy how these pair with each other. One thing I did notice though is sometimes the summons would pretty much get destroyed in a boss fight. Even if I put the right points in to make them tankier or more resistant, they seem like maybe they need a little bit more health. I know that they did get a buff recently in one of the patches, but maybe a little bit more. But at the same time, in those boss fights, they were still drawing aggro and allowing me to do whatever I want, so there's that too. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into that build, guys. And getting into the build, we are high-tech masterminds because we're running Engineer first and Summoner second. I prefer running Engineer first just because it suits my playstyle, but for you, I might suggest running Summoner first because I feel like you get more damage from running the Summoner just because its prime perk allows you to get 50% more damage from your minions as long as you do damage to them, and that lasts for 40 seconds. What I started to do was to use something with a dot like Flame Dot or the Poison Dot, and I'd put that on my minions because it did minor damage, but the dot would tick for around 15 seconds, and then after that 15 seconds was up, then the 40-second timer would start to count down. So that's pretty much a minute of your minions having 50% increased damage, which is nice. As far as the turrets, I like using these two the best with this build. I just set it down because we're using Soul Link, which is a ring I'll go over here in a second, which gives me a lot of life steal on the way back, and then I use the flamethrower for a lot of crowd control, as you see earlier. As far as the minions, completely up to you. The last two are my favorite. I think the Reaver could be the best with overall damage, but I really like the Flyers just because they stay out of my way, they do solid damage, and they tend to kite enemies around, which is really nice. As far as the amulet, I'm running Jester's Bell. This ended up being my favorite after multiple hours of playing. I did switch it out quite a bit with Hyperconductor. Now I would run Hyperconductor if I made Summoner my primary, so if you make Summoner your primary over here, I would suggest running Hyperconductor. If it's not, then I would just stay with Jester's Bell. And then of course you have Ankh of Power, Full Moon Circlet, which is really nice, and I did try out the Soul Anchor, but it was okay at best. As far as rings, we have Spirit Stone, Soul Guard, Soul Link, and Shard Banded Ring. Now the top one and the bottom one change quite a bit, but the Soul Guard and the Soul Link do not. This is really good because it gives us Bulwark anytime we have summons out, and you can have a max stack of 5 Bulwarks, so that gives us 25% damage reduction, which is very easy to come by on this build. And then of course Soul Link allows us to get 5% of the base damage dealt as lifesteal, so that's huge. I always keep these two on. Like I said, the bottom and the top one I switch out quite a bit if you want. These are the rings to switch them for. Cataloger's Jewel, which I feel like works pretty well. If you want a little bit more healing, then the Phase Shaman ring is there, but honestly I feel like this isn't that great if you're definitely running lifesteal, so you don't really need that. But if you feel like you need more healing, run this. Of course, Burden of the Gambler is always really nice to have, and another one that I ran quite a bit is Anastasia's Inspiration, just because we are using regrowth, and this gives us the benefits of all the haste. So those are some rings to look for. As far as armor, I haven't really gone out of my way to change anything that I feel like needs to be changed. We're running full knotted set, and then I have the Technician body plate just because we're going for a look over an actual build of armor. Run whatever you want here. I like the way this looks. I feel like it suits what I'm going for. Run what you want. And then as far as the healing item, we're running Constrained Heart this time around just because I'm trying to get more Bulwark out. So this gives us 2 stacks of Bulwark, which I think goes around 13% of damage reduction anytime that we heal. And then as our relics, we're running skill damage, mod damage, and weak spot damage. And the only reason we're running weak spot damage is because I am running the pulse rifle and I'm constantly shooting for weak spots. And speaking of the pulse rifle, it's a pretty good gun, not one of my favorites, but we are running the familiar in it, which shoots out a little crow or a raven. I'd have to look at its tail feathers to tell what it is, but it's one of those two birds, and it does really solid damage, and we have time wave attached to it, so anytime that bird attacks anybody, it slows them, and any enemy that is slowed, we do 15% increased range damage against them, which is really nice. As our melee weapon, we're doing the red doe staff just because I'm trying to fit in a summoner build, and the way this works is anytime we, I think it's like 4 attacks, it's 3 to 4 attacks with the melee, you can charge it up, and on a charge attack or a heavy charge attack, it releases a spectral doe, so it kind of looks like you're summoning something, and that actually does some solid damage. Right here it says it hits for 480, but it actually hits for like 600 with everything going. As you can see, we have reinvigorate, so that allows us to get 15% additional damage and 10% critical chance. I have seen up to 900 damage on this, but don't be like looking for that because that's super rare, but it's really nice and I feel like it fits the build well. And then last but not least, we are running Nebula. Now Nebula's nano swarm does not work as a summons, so you will not get granted a stack off this. Speaking of that, the familiar will work as a summons, and if you want to run a different secondary gun, you can use the Fargazer, which counts as 1 stack of bulwark based on summons. You can use the space crabs, which, you know, immediately goes to 5 stacks, but they're like little suicide bombers, so they die off really fast. Or you can use the tentacles, which gives you 2 stacks of bulwark. So you can switch these around quite a bit however you want. And then finally, our traits. Of course, we have Fortify and Regrowth. I chose Triage just so I have a little bit more healing based on the Regrowth and Lifesteal. We have Kinship, which I feel like is a must just so you don't do damage to your minions. And this also helps if you're trying to go the Summoner route, so Kinship is really, really nice for that. Spirit, of course. Expertise, of course. Barkskin, just for a little bit more DR. And then Rugged helps out a lot because it gives our summons more health. And then of course Vigor, and last but not least we have Endurance. And in normal fashion, just like the last 2 videos, I'm always going to show a boss with a big weak point or a critical spot to shoot just to show the overall damage that you can pull off of this. What I really want you to look at is our summons. They pretty much just get decimated here, and that's what I was talking about earlier, how sometimes your minions aren't the best for boss fights. Moving on in, we are fighting one of the tankier bosses in the game just because they don't have a weak point, and we got a bad roll on this one. He has elemental resist and thick skin, but we're still able to put out really good damage. If you watch right here, my health bar is just constantly ticking back up. That's from Regrowth, Triage, and Soul Link, and you can even have more lifesteal on this build if you want. I don't think it's really needed because look at our health, it's already pretty much back to full. And this build is really, really fun to play because you don't really have to do much to make the damage happen. You have a lot of minions putting out damage, you have a lot of mods putting out damage, and you're constantly just rolling around and just beating on everything as easy as it can be. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this build as much as I have making it. Alright guys, that pretty much sums it up. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps this channel out a lot and it helps me out a lot. As far as the next video, I may make a mage or a melee build. I'm not too sure yet. It could be anything, who knows. But I will make at least another video on this. Anyways, you guys have a great day and I will see you in the future. Later guys.